the computer, the smartphone, and the internet. AI is going to dwarf all of these innovations. That's not just a bold promise, it's the reality unfolding before our very eyes. And today's guest, Jonathan Mast, has been ahead of the curve since 1995. As the founder of Whitebeard Strategies, he's been helping entrepreneurs embrace AI to save time, boost profits, and deliver massive value, all without needing a tech team. In this conversation, Jonathan reveals his biggest AI insights, the critical ethical dilemmas, and the things that no one is talking about. He's also going to talk about how AI is transforming businesses faster than we ever imagined. If you've ever wondered how to use AI to amplify your expertise rather than replace it, you won't want to miss this interview. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to Hero Up, the podcast that inspires and challenges you to step up and become heroic in all areas of your life. I'm your host, Tony Stark Policci, and it's my goal to give you practical, actionable advice and insights into copywriting, mindset, lifestyle, and impact. On this show, we'll explore how to create compelling and persuasive marketing messages, and I'll give you clever tips to make you stand out as a hero. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a freelancer, a coach, or a creative, this podcast is for you. So, let's dive in. All right, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Hero Up Show. And you just heard the introduction to my wonderful guest here today, Jonathan Mast, founder of Whitebeard Strategies. Jonathan, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you, man.
Oh, I'm excited to be here and chat again. It's been a few months since we talked, so this is going to be amazing.
So we'll just jump right into it. Jonathan, tell me who you are and what you do.
I'd be happy to. I'm nobody. That's the best part to start off with. I help people learn how to embrace AI to save time and to deliver more value. When AI came out in 2023, I think it was 2022, being an ADD entrepreneur, I just quickly found out how incredibly helpful it was as a tool. And my goal and mission really, Tony, is to help others understand how they can leverage AI as a tool, because that's the way I see it, to help amplify their skill and experience, to save time, to make a little bit more money, and to deliver more value to their clients.
Okay, well, I discovered you because of some of your posts, and I just thought they were so amazing, which is why I reached out to you a while ago and asked you to be a speaker at the summit event that I did last year. And but I found out a lot about you. Like, you've been in the digital world since 1995.
I have, yeah. I sold my first website back in 95.
Yeah. So, what was your first big aha moment when you realized the potential of the internet to transform businesses?
It was back in 1995, actually, and we finally got access as commercially to the internet. And I was working for an IT services company at the time, and my mind was like blown. I remember I was sitting in a seminar that Microsoft had come into town to do, and Microsoft's always been really good at marketing, probably better than they are at software. And that's nothing against Microsoft; just they're really good at the marketing. And I sat in there and thought, oh my goodness, this is going to change the world as I know it. And I think we were right. Internet was a major boom. We went through obviously the boom and the bust and everything else related to the dot-com bubble. We saw all that. And I think AI is even bigger. I think AI is going to dwarf what the internet did. And much like then, I was young and dumb and trying to figure out how to make money. I was, literally in my I want to see how old was I then? Not even 30, trying to figure out again what I could do to make money in sales. And we did really well. I was blessed. But now my focus has really changed into, I still need to make money to pay the mortgage and buy groceries, but I'm much more interested in figuring out how I can help people embrace this technology, because I absolutely believe in my lifetime, I'm 55, that this will be the single most monumental shift that I've seen as a human being. And I want people to capitalize on it. Being who I am, being a believer, all that, I want to use this as a gift, as a tool that's been given to us to do good, because I don't believe AI is good or evil. I believe it exists, and I want us to embrace it.
Well, I certainly think that I agree with you 100% that the advent of AI onto the scene is really, it's a game changer. It's super huge, and it can be used for good or it can be used for bad, just like most things. We're going to talk more about how you're using AI and how you're helping people to leverage it. But I also wanted to ask you about something else. You founded something called Valorious Circle, along with
Hmm.
Whitebird Strategies. Both of those probably have had significant impacts on your digital
I
marketing and
have.
AI. Yeah. What was the what is the difference between the two, and what's the pivotal moment that made you focus on AI as a core part of your business strategy?
Yeah, so after being in the digital marketing world for a number of years, my wife, I think, got sick of hearing me tell her all the things that I thought the people I worked for should be doing. And she said, why don't you just go do it? So in 2010, I founded Valor Circle, and that's exactly what we did. We started building websites. I approached it from a marketing perspective. I'm a sales and marketing guy. And back in 2010, this was 15 years ago, most websites that were being built by developers, not by marketing people. And
Right.
so at the time, it was really a big deal to be focused on it from a marketing perspective. Super blessed. We built that company up to multiple seven figures. And I stepped away in 2023, summer of 2023, having really embraced AI and met with my team and said, hey, I think it's time for me to step away. And they were not at all unhappy to hear me say that because I was that visionary founder who kept getting in the way as the
Ah,
company grew, as Valor Circle grew. I was the guy getting in the way. I'd actually stepped away from day-to-day management of the company about 3 years in, and my wife joined me. She's an operational genius, and she
mm,
really started running the company. I was really just in charge of sales and marketing and got to be the face at that point in time. And but she really ran the company, and we had a team of about 15 people. They were, like I said, I don't they were very gracious, but I don't think they were really too upset to go that, this problem child called the founder was no longer going to be around to mess things up. Because as we grew, I started to do that. I would dabble in things, and I would generally cause more problems than I was
mm,
solving, because we had great systems in that. And while I understand great systems are needed, as an ADD visionary entrepreneur, I don't follow them very well. So, I that's about the time AI came on again. It really just changed my world at that point. And so I said, let me step away, left the company to the team and my wife, and they ran it well. In fact, my wife just exited this past summer, actually sold the company. And Whitebeard Strategies, thankfully, is doing well. Like I said, we've been blessed, and just we're not as big. We've only got a team of five of us, but we really our core focus is on serving the audience that we have and bringing value first. I'd read a book, actually, of all people, by Alex Hermosi, and I heard this from others, but Alex was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, where he talked about, if you would simply give away your knowledge and charge for implementation, you'll build an amazing business. And I thought, that's an interesting concept. I wonder if it'd work. And I was blessed to be in a situation where I could find out, because I didn't have to make money day one. I could actually go out and add a ton of value. But I can tell you now, in 2 years, we've built a company that is already larger than where we left off with Valor Circle, because based on the number of people we serve and revenue and all those things, because of the fact I'm convinced that we are so focused on adding value. We want to help and add value. And that has paid huge dividends for us, because we've earned that know, like, and trust with our audience.
oh, that is so awesome. Yeah, that is fantastic. What a great story. I love how you own the fact that sometimes as the founder, you can get in the way of the progress, right? Yeah.
And I was absolutely getting in the way. A customer would call in, and because I was sales and marketing, kind of that front face, sometimes I'd hear from the customer first, and I'm like, oh, I can fix that. I'll pop into WordPress. I know how to fix that, and I'd fix it. And then about a month later, our support director would come to me and go, were you messing in this site? I'm like, no, I fixed something for a client like a month ago. And he's like, don't do that anymore. And I'm like, what? And he's like, you didn't follow our protocol. So now we've got to go back and redo everything that you did. It's not that it didn't work, but it wasn't the right way. And now we have to
Mm,
redo that. And because they have a new request that they want. And so we have to fix all the stuff you messed up. And I'm like, oh, sorry, didn't mean to do that. And I didn't, but that is kind of my nature. I'm a pleaser by nature. And so if I had that opportunity and I had 3.5 minutes being ADD, I'm like, cool, I can get this done. It was like a challenge. Boom, I want to create this. Let's go. And I do it. And I ended up causing a lot. I don't say a lot, but I caused issues. And it was, like I said, I say it tongue in cheek when they ushered me out the door. They didn't, but I think it was the right timing. It was that
Sure.
acknowledgement that I think, life has chapters for us, and that chapter of my life was a huge blessing, but it was time for that chapter to close and for a new chapter to open.
Right. Yeah, I completely understand that. I get in and I do things that I really don't need to be doing, and I like to fix things that I'm a pleaser. We're very much alike. You mentioned ADD. So how has let me try and tie this into something else that I read that you wrote. You talk about being a first mover in AI adoption,
Oh, yes.
and so how does what are some practical steps or examples for like small or medium sized business to leverage AI, and how has AI helped you as an entrepreneur with ADD?
I think AI, and I'm going to answer them in reverse order if you don't mind, Tony. I think AI
Oh,
and ADD are like a well fit glove in a hand. Um, as someone with ADD, and I was actually diagnosed at 43. So somebody going, oh, everybody says they're ADD. No, I actually got diagnosed. By the way, tried the meds, didn't like them, and my mind got really quiet. It hadn't been quiet in 40 some years, and I'm like, no, thank you. I'd rather have the noise. And my wife thinks it's crazy because I'll ask her, what are you thinking? And sometimes she'll say nothing, and I'm like, huh? What do you
yeah,
mean nothing?
right.
I've always got 40 things going on. Anyway, AI, because I have ADD, I was able to hyper focus, and I still am. I'm able to really, for 15 to 20 minutes, I can get an hour or 2 hours worth of work done because I can just fly. That problem, though, is that my mind, and I actually just realized this recently, Tony, but what would cause me to fall out of that focus mode is that my mind would be going further ahead than my body could keep up with, and my hands typing and everything else. And I'd almost like fall off that wave, so to speak. It's like you're riding a wave, and I'd fall off because my mind would be too far ahead. And then the wave crashes, and now you're waiting for another one. And that next wave, that next focus could be 15 minutes away. It could be 15 hours away. You just never know. AI allows me to, I still have that hyper focus, but AI allows me to get so much more done, so much more fast, quickly, that my mind doesn't get as far ahead. So I think AI and ADD or ADHD or neurodivergence or whatever we want to call it, I think they're just truly made for each other to help us lean into the strengths that God's given us. I'm the weird one. I don't look at ADD as oh, he's got ADD. I'm like, yes, I've got ADD. I don't have a lack of thoughts. I have so many thoughts, but now I can actually do something with those because I can get things done faster. If you're not ADD, and I know there's a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs that are not, and people, AI is still amazing because it ultimately is a tool that amplifies skill and experience. So I believe, Tony, and this I tell every person I talk to, I believe that every person on earth that has a job that's doing anything that's related, maybe not if you're retired, but if you've got a job, you can save 30 minutes or more a day by just doing some simple things with AI. And that simple thing, in most cases, by the way, is going to result in just identifying something that you do on a regular basis. And today, you're going to use AI to help you do it faster. So if it took you 30 minutes yesterday, maybe it takes you 10 minutes today or 15. And as you do that every day, if we find one thing a day that we can do 5 days a week, at the end of the year, we've identified 250 things that we're doing better. The irony is, along the way, generally about the second week, we go, dang it, I actually have 30 more minutes a day because I'm able to save that time by doing things, whether that's writing that email that you need to sit down and really think about because you need to draw some good guidelines for the customer, but you need to do it nicely. Those are hard emails to write. Sometimes it's, I just need to create a new marketing campaign. And, that's my jam. That's what I'm into. But now I can create those new campaigns much faster and much more efficient. Maybe as an entrepreneur, it's brainstorming a new idea. I've got, with ADD, 40 of them every 4 minutes, maybe even more than that. And now I can quickly go through and figure out which ones make sense and which ones don't, and then focus on those that actually have the highest probability of turning into be something that's going to succeed in the long run. Because I believe that success favors action, and I'd rather fail fast and move on to something else than plan and 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 never actually get
Right.
started. And I know that's not always a popular opinion, but I absolutely believe, at least for myself, that imperfect action is better than no action. And unfortunately,
100%. Yeah.
when we plan for perfect action, it never happens. I mean, let's face it, the world wouldn't have a population if we as parents waited until there was a perfect time to have kids, because there is no perfect time. Something's not right. We don't have enough money. The time's not right. The job's not right. Who knows? It's never right. But yet, you know what? We thrive because we go ahead and have kids anyway. And somehow, despite our failings, they manage to grow up and generally be, pretty good members of society, and things work out. And that's just AI helps me do all of that. So I don't know if I answered your question, but that's kind of my 2 cents.
Yeah, you did. And one of the other things that I was looking for, you gave me more than I was looking for actually. But one of the things was, do you have any tips for like small or mid-sized companies to kind of
Mhm.
leverage AI without needing a large tech team?
Yeah. And it's really, again, that doing one thing a day. Start with something simple. You do not need the perfect AI tool. As business owners and entrepreneurs, we get so excited when we see this marketing pitch for this brand new tool that's going to come out, and it's designed just for us and just our industry. And it's going to do everything. Because, of course, marketers are known to embellish just a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
We don't need any. And I speak from one who tries not to, but is in that field. We don't need the perfect tool. ChatGPT, which almost everybody has heard about, will let you do virtually everything that you need to do and do it well. Now, are there other tools out there that may be better? Sure. But it's kind of like driving. A Ferrari may be the fastest way for me to get to the grocery store, but in all likelihood, it's not the most practical or best way for me to do it, even though it may be the fastest way for me to get there. That's probably why I drive a minivan, because it's not sexy, but it's really practical. ChatGPT may not be sexy all the time, but it's really practical. And if it allows us as businesses to both empower our teams and us to go in again, and just imagine that even on a small business with, say, 5 employees like me, if I could save 30 minutes a day for every one of them by teaching them how to leverage AI, that means for $20 a month, I'm literally adding in over 10 hours of productivity per person every single month for 20
Yeah.
bucks.
That's super
You mean,
powerful. So I didn't want to step on you. I'm
no,
sorry.
no,
Go
you're
ahead.
good. No.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of have you reiterate that point because what happens to me is I overthink things. And so I'm concerned that anybody listening might be like, well, I didn't get this big gold nugget thing, but you did give this big gold nugget. It's like, find one thing, don't overthink it. Find one thing that you do on a regular basis and see how to use or how you can use AI to
Yeah.
cut the time it takes to do that thing.
Yeah.
Super powerful
Absolutely.
and
You know,
simple.
to
Like anybody can do that.
Today I had an appointment earlier. A client had paid to have a half hour with me. They didn't show up. Normally, that I have to think about that for just a moment. How do I say this nicely? How do I let them know that they can reschedule? And again, yeah, I could have a template, but I like to personalize it. It was really easy. I literally took the company and the person's name, and I put it into ChatGPT, and I have a one programmed for me so it knows my tone and style. And I'm like, hey, Tony missed the meeting. I want to let him know there's a replay link. Here's the link. Write me an email. And sure enough, what would have taken me probably not a long time, but maybe 5 to 10 minutes to think through and write, I now had done in about 2 minutes. And that's the other thing I want to share. It's not about that home run that, hey, this took me 8 hours and I now did it in 80 seconds. No, it's about taking that job that took you 30 minutes and you had to do twice a day, every single day, or that job that took 4 hours every Friday and you just kind of go, oh, crap, somebody's got to do it. Taking that and being able to now do that job in 30 minutes to an hour, not 4 minutes. It's not an easy button. It's not going to, I always tell people AI is not going to go to the grocery store, buy your groceries, bring them home, put them in the fridge, cook your dinner, serve it up, do the dishes. It's not going to do all that. It can help you with each aspect other than maybe the dish part of it, because it can help you plan your meals. It can help you plan your shopping list. It can help you figure out how to cook stuff most effectively, but it's not going to actually do all of those things. And I think that's where we as business owners often mess up. We want AI to do everything. We want it to be the easy button that will allow us to be George Jetson and go, my finger hurts because boss, I've been pressing this button too much at Spacely Sprockets, instead of going, okay, what I really want to do is figure out, how do I save 30 minutes a day?
Right. So you've seen the because you got involved in the internet so early, you've watched the evolution kind of AI. Well, most of
Yeah.
us have, right? But what do you think the biggest ethical challenge that we're going to face with AI in the next decade are going to be?
I'm an oddity here, Tony. I don't really believe AI brings about new ethical concerns. I think it just amplifies those ethical concerns that maybe we didn't address earlier on, if that makes sense. In other words,
Sure.
you know, integrity. If I use AI, am I willing to tell everybody that I used AI? My answer is yeah, absolutely. In fact, being in the marketing world where I'm in, I think it would be absolutely crazy to try to tell people that I wasn't using AI. Now, I'm sure there are some people out there that go, I'm not going to hire any marketing company that does AI. Okay, no problem. Because there's 4,432 others for everyone that doesn't want to, that do want to hire somebody that's using AI because they're seeing the benefit. So I think if there is an ethical consideration, it really boils down to two things. One is having the integrity to admit that it's a tool that we're using, just like a roofer uses a power nailer. I'm not going to pay the roofer more money because he hammers everything by hand. In fact, I'm probably going to pay him less money because I don't want it to be disrupted for so long.
Right.
The other part that we're going to see that I think will cause some consternation, I don't know if it's an ethics discussion so much, is it's getting harder and harder to trust anything you read, hear, or see because AI allows us to replicate voices. It allows us to recreate videos. We can create things that are not true. And so I think those people that have ethical issues and cracks in that ethical foundation will absolutely use AI to do things that they shouldn't be done. It's no different than a firearm or anything else. It's not necessarily the entity. It's not the AI that's the problem. It's the idiot using it for the wrong purpose. And I think that's important for us to understand, that we need to know that the best thing we can do is then not to go, it's evil and we shouldn't use it. We should demonstrate to the rest of the world how AI can be used effectively, because I do believe it's a tool. One of my favorite studies is they've done a study of the last 50 or 60 years of diabetes research,
Mm.
and AI has made some connections that weren't made anywhere else because it had more data and it's really good at data analysis. And they're now testing some things, excuse me, they're testing some things for diabetes that they believe may actually lead to a cure. Well,
Wow.
maybe not. But these are things that, AI is doing that are good. What a great thing if we could actually have a way to cure diabetes for people. But those aren't the things that get talked about. What we get talked about is somebody created a fake video, or, somebody's doing something wrong with it. And no matter what tool we have, the internet, when it came out, I mean, we were talking about that. The internet was used for good and bad. But can you imagine today not having access to the cloud for resources? I don't think
No.
most of us could live our lives as we are today without some sort of cloud access. And if you don't believe it, just go to the middle of Montana where you don't have any service and try it sometime. It's beautiful, but it's really weird when you don't get any updates for anything.
Right, right. Well, God created us with a good inclination and an evil inclination, and
Yes, he
we
did.
tend to, shift the responsibility for the choices we make to things and technology, and
Yeah. Oh, so true.
ultimately the onus is on us to use things for good or evil. So, and okay, so aside from the ethical thing, how do you see it transforming the landscape of digital marketing and business over the next, 2 to 5 years?
I'd love to predict, but I'm not even sure we can right now because things are happening so incredibly quickly. I
Yeah,
think
that's a
more than
great
anything,
answer because I was like, this is a tough one I'm going to ask you, but
yeah,
who can answer that?
I have inclinations, but my crystal ball is cloudy and cracked, as I like to say. I think where we're really going to see the major gains, Tony, are going to be in efficiencies. The ability for, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, I believe it was him, talked about how he believes in the next couple of years we're going to see the first company with $1 billion valuation that has no employees. It's one
Wow, yeah.
person. We've never had that before. I think he's probably right. We're going to do that. We're going to see people that are going to leverage AI and AI tools in such a way that they're going to be able to have massive efficiencies and bring massive value. That's not the same in the AI in the marketing world. That's not the same as the people that go, oh, I'm going to use AI to write 1,000 blog posts today and publish them, because that's not helpful. That's not adding value, at least not necessarily, not likely. So there's a huge difference there between volume and value. And I think it's that person and individuals and teams who will be able to embrace AI and value and figure out the best way to marry them that will, again, create some massive wealth, massive opportunities, and better than that, deliver massive value to their audience. And that's super cool from my perspective.
Yeah. So you talked earlier about, Hermosi's perspective of giving away your best stuff and then, charging for implementation. When you help companies, how do you move towards like creating avatars for them and things like that, and then moving into the implementation? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So we actually, as a company, have just recently pivoted away from any done-for-you services. Everything we do now is really focused on group training and group masterminds. We're really trying to focus on educating and empowering others. It's really one of our core focuses is to help people embrace AI. In fact, the original line I came up with 2 years ago is embrace AI to save time, to make more money, and deliver more value. And that's really where we're still trying to focus. And so we teach people and organizations and their teams how to do those things. Now, that doesn't mean we don't ever help them, but we're trying to teach them how, because I'd rather teach 1 million people how to do it than do it for 100. And it's just a personal value of mine. There's nothing wrong with either solution. In fact, there's a huge opportunity in the marketplace for people that want to implement those solutions because they need that. When we go into work with a company, the first thing we try to teach them is that we need to train the AI on their organization. It needs to understand their mission, their values, the products and services they sell, the people they serve, the pain points they resolve, all of that type of stuff. And once we have that knowledge base coalesced inside of an AI model, which by the way can be ChatGPT, it doesn't have to be anything special, then we can use that to make so many other things that we're doing, whether that's brainstorming about a new product, whether that's writing a letter in customer service to somebody who's not happy, whether that's launching a new campaign for a new product or a new event or anything else. We can now use that knowledge base that's in a central spot and that AI can just like that reference and pull information from to add massive value to make things faster. We just finished up working with a client who does a lot of events. And I'm proud to say through the things we were able to teach them by doing that, they're able to now to shorten the amount of time that they need to plan and execute and launch an event. And again, it's not that they turned it from 4 weeks into no weeks, but they've turned it and literally cut close to 70% of the time needed to do that. And they believe, based on the response they're getting back, that now the events and the materials and everything else that they're doing are higher quality as well, because we've all done it as people. It's Friday. As we're recording this on a Friday, I've got a few hours left in my day, and we've all been there before when we're like, you know what, day's almost done. This is good enough. Let's send it. And AI doesn't fall into the good enough paradigm. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't have a headache. It doesn't get hungry. It doesn't have a bad day. It doesn't have an argument with its spouse. So it's there to work for you and be consistent in that on an ongoing basis. And I think that's going to lead to just better value provided overall.
Yeah, that's great. So, I talking a little about your values, I'm going to shift more
Please.
towards your personal stuff. Like you're a man of faith, so am I. We both are, very. That's our belief in God is very central to everything that we do. So,
Absolutely.
tell me, how is that? How's your faith and your family's very important? How has that influenced your career choices and your approach to business?
Well, I think, more than anything else, it is my desire to glorify my God and Savior through everything that I do. Plain and simple. Somebody asked me the other day, and I'm going to get choked up, but that's me. What's your
I
goal,
love that.
Jonathan? What
Yeah, like
what what do you
this is
want?
real.
What do you want in life? And I said, I have one goal. I want to stand in front of Jesus Christ, and I want to hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant." If I can achieve that, good. I didn't let my father down. I did what I was supposed to do, and I did the best that I had given the talents I had. In that parable of the talents, I want to be the one that had a couple and did tenfold. Not because I want to be rich. I just want to. I want to leverage what God's given me. And so it's very important to me that I glorify God through what I do. Now, I'm not a preacher, so I'm not out there preaching and I'm not out there proselytizing and I'm not out there trying to convert all the time, although I'm happy to have that discussion with anybody. That's not what I do. I talk about AI, but I believe that by doing that, I can still exemplify what it is to be a Christian business person, what it is to be a godly man, a godly father, a godly husband. And that absolutely impacts the decisions that I make and the things that I do. There are plenty of opportunities with AI right now, as you've probably seen, to push the limit of what actually can be done. And especially with marketing, we talked about that marketers are really good at embellishing. There's so many opportunities. As a Christian businessman, I work really hard not to do that. I'm regularly rewriting the content that I use ChatGPT to do, and it says best ever, and I'm like, no, it's really good, but it may not be the best ever or the last class you'll ever need. No, I'm not going to say it's going to be the last class you'll ever need. So I work really hard in those areas to maintain integrity, and hopefully I do well. I'm not perfect, so I'm sure I failed there, but yeah, it drives everything that I do. It's really at the core of who I am. And I made some decisions earlier in my career that didn't glorify God, and that caused some problems. And I don't know if you know or not, but I actually spent 3 years in federal prison for getting involved in a lie that I shouldn't have. And that taught me some really important lessons, because it wasn't that God sent me to prison, but God allowed me as a father to make a mistake, and I did. And I had to pay the repercussions, much like I might do with my sons. I might go, you guys don't go there. But if you go there, I'm going to let you feel the pain because you need to learn the lesson. And, God did that in my life. And it has, thankfully, I hope, allowed me to learn the lessons that He intended for me to learn so that I can now be a better human being today.
I, unfortunately, I can't think of too many lessons in my life that didn't come with out a lot of pain.
Oh,
You
amen to
know,
that.
I spent time behind bars too. I did all kinds of things. Like, I look back on my life and I see what God has delivered me through, right? And how I have grown because of that. I'm very grateful that I have grown. At the time, I resented a lot of that stuff, but
In the moment, it's never fun.
it's never fun. But looking back, I can see the value, of consequences. And I love that you talked about the example of a father and a son, because one of the toughest things for me as a dad is letting my kids fail and watching them go
Yeah.
through hard times. And we talked earlier about being a pleaser, and I
Oh,
always
yeah.
want to fix things.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think you
Absolutely. I've fallen
alluded to
into
some
that
of that.
head and
What's
shoulders. Yes.
Yeah. You alluded to some of that with your other company. That's probably what got in the way, is like, you just love fixing things. And, the toughest thing for me, I think, was a few years ago when one of my sons was having financial difficulties and I was paying his rent, but it started becoming a burden to me. And I had to just tell him, I can't help you anymore. And
Yeah.
oh my gosh, the guilt and everything else I felt, like I didn't realize I had so much codependency tied around that. But it was like, oh, I'm a terrible dad. I'm like,
Oh,
and
yeah.
and fast forward a few years, best thing I ever did for him,
Hmm.
because he learned how to figure it out, right?
Yep.
Um, and
Exactly.
and that's what we can do. So, but bringing that back to AI and to your faith and how we operate as a marketer, as a copywriter, right? You mentioned this. We marketers
Yeah.
embellish things. That is one of the things that has been very crucial in my career. Is like, there's times when I pull back on what I'm writing or what I'm doing because it just is disingenuous.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I can't really say that. And that's something that people have to be aware of. In we talked about ethical concerns,
Yeah.
and sometimes I
Absolutely.
think we live in a society where things are so hyped up that my experience has been that people tend to get desensitized to that.
Yeah.
Best ever, incredible this and that, and people just kind of gloss over that, but it's important to really pay attention to what we're saying and the message we're putting out there. Um, does that line up with who we are? That's integrity, you know.
Mm, 100%.
So, and you're well, I could go on and ask you more about your family, but I also want to talk about some of your hobbies, because I know you you are really into something that I would love to be into and haven't had time for years, which is motorcycles.
Yes.
Yeah. Do
It's
you
a
ride a
weakness of
lot?
mine. I don't ride as much as I'd like, but I do love them. It is my way to disconnect from everything tech. I'm one of those motorcyclers that while I bought one, I don't ever use it. I don't have an intercom system. I don't have a way to answer my phone while I'm my bike. When I go there, it's me and the road noise and just the smells and the sights and the temperatures. And it amazes me. I can literally, and I've done this, ride down a road on my motorcycle that I've been down maybe hundreds of times in my life in a car. And I will experience things. I will see buildings. I will see trees. I will smell things. I will experience things that I never knew were there. I've literally driven down one road before, and I remember seeing a house that was back off a ways. I'd never noticed. I'd been down this road many, many, many times. I'd never once noticed it, but I was on my motorcycle, and just because of the way it opens up, I happened to notice it. So it's my way of kind of disconnecting and getting away and having my own space. And yeah, to me, it's very much a renewal. I love it.
Isn't that an amazing thing? We change our surroundings, we change how we move through space, and our perspective shifts too, right?
Oh, it does. I think it's
Yeah.
a really important lesson, though. I mean, because it's like the filter that we have in life. I mean, there's plenty of people that disagree with me on lots of different things, from faith to politics to everything else. And so often, especially in the U.S., we see that causes people to want to butt heads. And
Right.
from my perspective, I think I'm probably stretching, but motorcycling's helped me realize that it's really based upon how you're experiencing it at that moment. And if we have different perspectives, you're probably got a different filter. And
Mhm.
it gives us opportunities to actually have conversations that I think are much more meaningful. If instead of going, you're an idiot because we disagree, if I can go, well, hang on, you got a different filter. I may not understand it, but it'd be kind of interesting, Tony, if I understood your filter. You and I talked, you and I have both been to prison. So we have a different filter related to that than those that haven't been there. And that's part of the story that God's given us and part of the experience that God's given us. And I think instead of trying to always try to figure out who's like us, sometimes it's more fun to figure out who's different and then figure out why. So
Right.
sorry, total segue.
No,
I'm good at those.
so am I. If you look at my friends on the Facebook page, you wouldn't really be able to like pigeonhole me into the kind of people that I like to hang out with, because I have friends who are in the complete, atheist, complete opposite side politically, because I want to learn from others. It's not always easy, right? It's
No,
so
it's
much
not.
easier to hang out with people that think like you, act like you. You can like rally and say, yeah, 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 look at those idiots over there. But that doesn't help me grow. That doesn't challenge me. And that also
Thank you.
doesn't give me an opportunity as, a man of God to share, his love for all of us.
Uh-huh.
So, if, but I mean, that's a whole nother discussion. We need another hour to get into that one. But
No, but it's so true. I want to keep growing. I don't want to be that fig tree that's died. I want to continue to grow. And I know that means I need to be challenged. Now there are days that I don't feel like being challenged, but if I go through
yeah,
my life not wanting to be challenged, I'm never going to grow. I'm never going to become that man that I believe God's designed me to be, that father that I can be, that husband that I can be, that community member, whatever it is. I'm never going to achieve that if I always want to avoid conflict and I want to do things the easy way. I need to be open to being challenged.
right. And you are also one of the things that, like I found out about you early on when I first discovered you and got into your Facebook page, was you create a lot of images, but I didn't really know until I did some research that one of your other hobbies is photography, and that
Yeah.
kind of makes sense. Where like you really come up with these wonderful images. So tell me about your photography.
I'm an avid amateur, as I like to say, and I tried for a very short period of time being a professional photographer, and I may or may not have had the skills or been able to develop them, but I realized I wasn't having any fun. As soon as I had to do it for a job, it wasn't any fun anymore. So I literally did a couple handful of photo shoots, and I remember coming home to my wife and going, "Yeah, that's not what I want to do because it's not any fun when I do it that way." I love imagery. I'm a very visual person. I'm a visual learner. And so to me, images help make the world real or more enjoyable or whatever the case is. And therefore I love images as a result of that. And yeah, I do a lot of photography, but now I do a lot of things digitally because I can start creating the things that my mind is conceiving, which can be really interesting. From a faith perspective, one of the things I've started doing that's been really helpful, and this, by the way, will irritate some people. So, warning: if you're easily triggered, turn it off for a moment. But I will go in, and especially in Sunday mornings when the pastor is talking about something that resonates with me. I'm the type that I like to understand what was going on, what was that situation was like, and I love to use AI to give me ideas of what maybe it looked like at the pool of Bethesda, or as the Israelites were in the desert, or whatever case we're talking about. And I don't know that it's accurate, but I know that it at least helps open up my perspective because I'm already seeing pictures in my head. So now I get to actually see photos. And yeah, I love what AI is allowing us to do in those areas that again never could have been done because I don't have the skill to be a painter or to create a photo that didn't exist. But now if my mind can conceive it, I can generally come up with some images that represent it, and that's really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. That triggers a famous quote that I can't think the rest of, but if the mind can conceive it, the
Yeah, I used
some
to learn this in sports. If the mind can conceive and the heart can believe, the body can achieve.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was always the fat kid in school, and at least the heavy kid, and so I loved sports, but I was only okay at them. And I remember many a coach doing that to me. Especially remember as I was trying to figure out could I actually dunk a basketball in high school, and I remember you know heard it all the time. If the mind can conceive and the heart can believe, the body can achieve. I managed to dunk a tennis ball, but I never got any better.
Well, that's pretty great. Yeah.
you know, I couldn't do it anymore, but I was when I was younger, I was able to do that. So
I had a coach and a teacher in my sophomore year in school, and he was 5'7", and the guy could actually hit the rim. Like,
wow,
put about he had some amazing legs, this guy. Crazy.
no
Mr.
doubt.
Bean. Mr. Bean, one of the most influential men teachers of my life. But so shifting back to I love the fact that you use AI in that way to help you visualize things when it comes to studying the word of God. But what is do you have a favorite like AI tool for imagery, or is it ChatGPT, or do you use something else?
Yeah, no, I do. I'm not a big fan of ChatGPT for images. I just don't think that it does. It doesn't match what is in my mind. I use two tools primarily. One is Midjourney,
Mhm.
and the other is a tool called Flux, Flux, and those are the tool that I tend to use. I find that I can create anything from the cartoon images that I love that just make me smile and make my grandkids smile. So of course I love those. To photorealistic, to different art styles. I love the ability that both Midjourney and Flux give me. There are some other good tools as well, but those are two of my favorites.
I kind of glossed over your family. Are your kids working with you in the business? Your
They
adult
are not.
children? No?
I have two amazing sons. One of them is married and has I have a beautiful daughter-in-law and two amazing grandchildren, a granddaughter and a grandson. And my other is at home yet. He's 17. He's just finishing up high school. And yeah, just yeah, I've got a great family. Married to an amazing woman, and she truly is that Proverbs 31 woman that I
Oh,
was
wow.
searching for,
Good for
and
you.
makes me much better as a man, and definitely challenges me in many good ways. Some frustrating, but almost all good. So, yeah, no, family is great. Truly blessed.
Yeah, I've got one of those wives too. And um, this is my second marriage. First one, I never thought I would have a second one, but comparing the two, I realized that this one's a whole lot different.
Oh yeah,
I'm
I get that.
constantly working on myself because she's so amazing, um, which is a complete flip from the other one. I was so focused on always cleaning up her messes that I missed a lot of my own. But
Been
yeah,
there.
I get that. Um, Shifting back to AI a little bit as we're coming to the end of our time here, is there a big misconception that you've noticed that people have about it? And how do you address that with clients?
I think probably the biggest misconception is that people assume that the AI that exists today is similar to what existed in the movie Terminator,
Mm,
and it's not sentient, plain and simple. I have clients and customers and course students that I teach regularly are like, it's trying to deceive me. No, it's not actually trying. It's not the intention. It may have given you the wrong information, but the AI behind the scenes was not going, oh, if we do this, we could deceive Tony. It's not doing that. It's just, I always tell people, AI has been trained on every book in every library, and if you've ever been to Barnes and Noble or any bookstore or looked on Amazon or been to a library, you'll notice that when you go to look at a subject, sometimes there's books that don't agree with each other.
right.
And AI has been trained on all of those books and nobody's told it which ones to believe. And so sometimes it makes mistakes, it gets confused. The other thing we have to remember is that when the developers have created AI, they've done so with the intention to try to get us to use it, because that's how companies like OpenAI and Anthropic and Google make money. We use their apps. They want us to do that. We buy their subscriptions. If AI acted like a third grader and tried to validate everything that we said and ask us clarifying questions every time we didn't give it enough information, we would stop using it. Because when I said, help me do this, and it went, why? And then I gave it information and said, why? And it kept doing that. I'd go, never mind, I don't need this. So AI has been taught to make assumptions, and sometimes it does. And we know what happens when we make assumptions. We look like that southbound end of a northbound mule. And the same thing will happen with AI. And people either assume, one, that it's going to be perfect and it's going to have every answer, or they assume that it's totally unreliable because it does make mistakes sometimes. And I think both of those are mistaken places to begin from.
Right. That's great. So, um, I work with a lot of people that are moving into like coaching, or they want to be influencers or thought leaders.
Mhm.
What kind of advice would you give to someone who wants to be a thought leader in their industry, using AI, but they don't quite know where to start?
Well, first, don't ask somebody what prompt to use in order to make it happen, because it's not just a prompt. I get that in I have a large Facebook group. I get that all the time. What prompt do I need to use in order to become an AI consultant? It's like, okay, by your question, I know you're not ready for that yet. And that's okay. Um, if you want to be an influencer, you want to be a thought leader, then you need to act like one. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way that you should become somebody you're not. But the influencers that we have are influencers because they're bringing value to us. Now, that doesn't mean they're not getting paid, and it doesn't mean you can't get paid. But in order to be a thought leader and an influencer, in my experience, you need to add massive value. And here's the good news: most people are not willing to put in the work to deliver massive value. In fact, I would say 99% of the people that you're competing with in any industry are not willing to put in the work required to deliver massive value. Here's the benefit though: if you do that and you do that consistently and you're focused not on yourself, but on adding value, something really cool comes around. And it reminds me of Zig Ziglar. Some people may be old enough to remember Zig. Zig always said, you can have anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want.
Right.
And that same holds true in this space. If you add enough value, that value will be returned to you. You will get value out of that. You may get more or less than others. But the other thing combined with that, Tony, is that we live in a world of abundance. The pie is not limited. So if there's 20 people listening to this that go, Jonathan, I don't think I like that Fred Flintstone hat, and I think the beard's stupid, and I think there's a better way to do AI than you're doing it, that's okay with me, because there's so much opportunity. That opportunity is going to expand to fill what's needed. And so don't worry about helping a competitor out. Now, I'm not saying you have to give them your proprietary information and help them beat you, but don't worry that somebody mimicked you. That's the best form of compliment there is. Just run with it. Focus on adding value. Don't focus on yourself. And here's the hard part: be consistent. And that doesn't mean, for people listening, 3 blog posts or 3 videos and Granted, nobody did anything. That didn't work. Gary Vaynerchuk was wrong. Good. By the way, Gary Vaynerchuk on October 7th of 2022, he didn't do the video, but I watched one of his videos, and that video inspired me to realize that I needed to commit for the next year to producing content every single day, and that content needed to be value-based content, not a single sales pitch in it. And so I did. And what happened was amazing. And I don't listen to Gary Vee that often, but what happened was that Gary said, if you do that and you add value to people's lives for an entire year, your life will be different and better than you ever imagined it at the end of the year. And I had no idea how right he was, because my life has become richer, not necessarily financially, although that's fine too. I got money for groceries, but it's become richer and more fulfilled and more depth filled and more joy filled than it ever was in my life. And it's a direct result of that giving.
That is really a powerful statement. Be willing to give first. As a marketer, one of the things I've used for years and years is we've used free gifts, free reports, free this, free that, right? But that's become gimmicky. I mean, that stuff still works, but what's at the core of that is being willing to deliver value first. Because what is the saying? My brain is not working well today.
Welcome to my world. Yes.
They don't care about until
they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes. I couldn't get it out.
That's all right.
But yeah, it's about value, giving value. So I've got a couple other questions for you as we wind up here. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be? And what would you talk about? And would you use AI to prepare for the conversation?
I doubt I would use AI, because I'm just very conversational. I want to meet and look in your eyes and see who you are and figure that out. As far as a historical figure, I can think of religious figures, people from the Bible I'd love to sit down with, but historical, for whatever reason, I kind of exclude that.
Yeah.
It's a great question. I honestly think I would want to meet, and I would use AI to probably do the research, because I don't think I have a name for you today, Tony. I probably wouldn't choose to meet with anybody that's that well known. I'd want to look for who are some of the people behind those well-known people. In other words, I can look at, the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and all that and go, okay, that'd be really cool. But who are the people behind them? Those are the people I'd really like to have dinner with and find out, what was it like to support them? What was it like to see what they were doing, and who really were they? Because sometimes I found out, not always, but sometimes the people that were at the front weren't necessarily as amazing and as wonderful people as what they were perceived to be. It was often the people behind them.
100%. Like a lot of the people I had the pleasure of interviewing on the podcast, no one's ever heard of them, but they've got such an amazing story, right? So I love that answer. That's wonderful. Yeah. So last thing I want to ask you, this is the Hero Up podcast, and the whole purpose of this is to help people level up and hero up and be the hero in their own lives, their own families, their own business. Who is it that you want to be a hero to going forward?
Well, I'm gonna pull a switch on you. I don't want to be anybody's hero. I want to help other people become the hero. That's simple.
That's how I promote my business. I'm like, we help make you the superhero to your to your clients.
I don't desire to be famous or anybody else. I was in the San Diego airport last week, Friday, a week ago, actually today. And I was waiting for a flight, and I had somebody come up to me, and they recognized me. And it was the first time that's ever happened. And it was one of the most uncomfortable experiences I've ever had. Not that I minded. I thought it was great. It was a super fellow. We had a great chat. But I thought, I don't like the fact that I can sit in an airport in San Diego, which is the other side of the country from where I live, and somebody from New York can be walking through, which is where he was from, and he can recognize me. And I don't know if I like that. I don't have that desire. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. And it was a great conversation. I'm glad it happened. I don't mean anything bad by it, but I don't strive for that. I was at a mastermind recently, and the head of the mastermind says, "You are an influencer." And I said, "I'm not an influencer. I don't desire to be an influencer. I desire to add value." He goes, "But you are an influencer." We didn't argue about it. We were joking about it over dinner. And I'm like, "But you don't understand, that's not my aspiration. It's kind of like being recognized in the airport. I don't know. I want to be recognized in the airport. Just not who I am. So I don't know how that would fit into the question, but for whatever reason, that seemed appropriate.
I think that's a really great response, because it gave me a whole new perspective of how to look at it. I think about being a hero to someone as being a force for good and for change in their life, not necessarily notoriety, but you took it to a whole nother level where it's really about being there and adding value for others, not necessarily like, yeah, I love that. Jonathan, how can people engage with you? How can people find you? Where should people go to find out more about all
All
the
they need to
value
do
you
is
bring to the world?
remember my name. It's Jonathan Mast, M-A-S-T. And so if they go to jonathanmast.com/linktree, I've got tons of free resources. I've got a few paid ones too, ways to contact me. So just jonathanmast.com/linktree.
And your Facebook group, is that still
It's still growing. Yeah,
available
we're
through
about
the link tree?
350,000 people in our AI Prompts for Entrepreneurs Facebook group. If you want tons of free resources, we've got tons there as well.
Great group. Always something wonderful to look at there.
Thank you.
Amazing. So, Jonathan, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. God bless you. God bless your work. And just thanks so much for being here and for everything you do.
Well, thank you, Tony. Have a great day.
Thank you for tuning into Hero Up. I hope today's episode challenged you to step up as a hero in your field and provided you with valuable insights to express your unique voice and message. If you found this episode helpful and motivating, please leave a review and share it with your friends and family. And remember to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes and amazing guests. Until next time, find your voice, share your message, live your mission.